Hey everybody, this is Perch, and hey, we got a sequel to a video from a while ago. So in this video from a while ago, we had a listener, well, sort of a listener. It sounded like the husband listened more, and this was the listener's wife who wrote in to ask for some advice. And the basic advice that the woman wrote in to ask for was kind of love line Perch. That's what we became. But anyway, the advice was that, if I'm paraphrasing quickly, that the wife, newly married, and he's a big comic collector. She was going through his comics to bag and board them to kind of help help out and also kind of bond with his hobby, which is comics, and discovered or detected a number of more adult themed comics. And so, after a conversation with the husband, kind of an agreement was made to get rid of the comics to sell them because they didn't match both of their religious values. And then she's noticing the comics aren't going away, like they haven't been sold yet. So she's wondering what to do. Should she get angry about this? Is this the hill to die on, and so on? And my general advice, I think, which it got some really good discussion in the comments, but generally, it was that, hey, this is something you and your husband need to agree upon. It's a year in. If comics with adult themes are a problem now, there's probably other problems coming. So you should try and work for resolution. And then the other piece of it, which I noted, was this goes against my religious beliefs. It doesn't. That's, as I've said before, I'm not religious, so I don't have that bias or that impulse. But if your marriage is built on that kind of foundation of religion and faith, then you do have to factor that in, and that is a piece of everything that's going on. But anyway, so we got a sequel. So I did the video, I gave the advice, lots of people commented. So the wife in question has wrote back to check in on to let us update on what's going on. So here we go. Hello, Perch. Thank you again for your advice on the letter I wrote you regarding my. I'm skipping the first paragraph here. Let me because that just recaps everything I just recapped. So I should have just read the mail and saved a bunch of trouble. As an update to the situation, I took your advice, and when my husband came home, I tried to delicately but firmly discuss the situation and why it was still bothering me. We wound up having a long conversation around comics and their collectible value, and my husband basically explained that he wasn't able to sell these comics. There's not a buyer for them at the moment, and so that's why they hadn't moved. He felt bad and didn't feel comfortable just throwing them away. He wants to make sure that he gets some money out of them since he spent the money in the first place. I must admit, I don't quite get this perspective, particularly if they're not terribly valuable, but I suppose this is part of being a comic collector. Okay. This mentality, by the way, for people who are not comic collectors, not into comics, it's important you do kind of understand this one. I do think people, this is one of those things I've over the years, regardless of adult comics, not adult comics, a lot of people have struggled with. If you're not into comics, you don't really understand kind of this impulse or this drive that people who do collect comics have, which is, if I'm going to get rid of comics, I do want to get, value of it. It's because so much of the hobby sometimes is built on buying things and selling them for a profit. You get edgy if the idea gets presented of like, let's just get these away, or I don't get my value back from them. It kind of goes against the hobby itself. So it's a little bit hard to explain, but it is a driving force in a lot of these things. If you collect comics, this is just intuitive to you that if you're going to sell them, then you want to get a good deal for them. If you don't have that kind of bond with comics, then you view them as just, stuff to throw away or replace like old furniture. And it's so there's very much a thing there for people. But anyway, back to the mail. After a long discussion, we came to the agreement that we would put the comics that are offensive in a separate box and separate location, and that he will make more of an effort to try and get rid of them. But I did understand and accepted the fact that they couldn't just be thrown away. I must admit, I still feel bothered by them, And even though the conversation was good, I don't quite understand why he had them in the first place. Do a lot of people collect dirty picture comic books? Dirty picture comics? I mean, no, but I, the one problem, and it's I said this in the previous video, and I'm saying it here again. I don't have enough context for what we mean by dirty picture. To some people, I mean, there's a huge range there, and a lot of the people who commented also, I think, missed this point of like, are we talking, kind of TNA Marvel swimsuit special? Are we talking, Legend of the Overfiend? Where in between? Where are we in that? Because there, I would have a different opinion if, you're saying, hey, we're starting this new family, particularly if you're religious and you've got the Marvel swimsuit comic. I would say you're being ridiculous if that's, it's too far. Now, granted, everybody has their own, bar of what they want to accept, but you're being silly if that's your bar. Versus if somebody's got, I like Bondage Fairies, or one of the, like, if you've got, incest anime, is what I said last time. If you've got that, that's a different, that's the other extreme. So where are we on that extreme? Because I think that's a pretty major, component to all this. Anyway, I have to, okay, back to the mail. I have to say that a lot of your commenters were real jerks. well, I mean, yeah, we all know that. Uh, I, um, I get that. I get that people need to have their own space, but a lot of people seem to take it in a direction of this is why men shouldn't get married, and try to portray me as a harpy. I promise I'm not those things. I just feel like we're trying to build a relationship for each other based on our shared faith, and this was an abnormality, and this was an abnormality, and I struggled to understand the meaning behind it. I struggled with that sentence. To struggle to understand the meaning behind it. Okay. Overall, is this a problem that a lot of other comic collectors face? Do they buy comics and then realize that they're too dirty? What happens when these people have children? How do they explain some of these comics and material to their kids? Anyway, I just want to say thank you for the advice. Curious about how many other people have faced this, and if I'm just the only one. Okay. And then there's a little postscript here I won't read. It's more personal. So, okay. I definitely have had the scenario where, for a variety of reasons, people are collectors, they get married, then they have kids, and then they need to sell off part of the comics. And usually it's about space. It's just, the wife or the husband or whoever. It's usually the wife, because it's usually the husband that's a collector in this scenario. But the wife comes in and starts getting really upset at all the space the comic's taking, and like, you gotta sell off some of these, and that's usually where the dynamic and the fight goes. It's rarely, it has happened. I've had this happen a few times where somebody has kids and then they get rid of some of the, like, Faust and Lady Death and some of the comics like that because they just don't want them around the kids. That has occurred. At the end of the day, look, I think marriage is something where you have to have an agreement and a partnership between two people. And anyone that tells you that there's only one way to do that is lying. It's that person is crazy. There are many different relationships, many different agreements people make between each other. And at the end of the day, the secret to a successful marriage is that both people have that shared, understanding, that they're able to move forward and believe that they're on the same page, whatever that page may be. Some people, they have a very heavy religious aspect to their relationship. Some people, are atheists and they do not. I mean, it's all over the place where people go and what they're all about. So that's kind of, at the end of the day, you've got to work it out with the husband. I do think, if I'm being honest with you, this mail and kind of some of the things in it, it does, in the last one, again, I wasn't really sure. And in this follow-up, I think you may be taking too hard of a line on these comics, just based on some of the comments that I read and some of you didn't. I think your bar may be a little bit too strict. And my advice there is, again, you and your husband have to come to an agreement about what works and all the rest. But if you are, I'll just put it this way: if the bar feels strict with this, then you're going to go into, the future of movies and music and all the other parts of entertainment. And this is just going to keep coming up and up again if you don't have that good agreement. So you need to work that out. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to be a pain. And remember, if you try to hold on to it too tightly for all this kind of stuff, maybe there's a different level of kind of insecurity in the relationship you need to be talking to him about. And I rarely find that comics is a hill to die on where this is concerned. So if you find yourself on a hill a lot around comics, I think there's probably a different conversation you need to have. But again, that's your and your husband's business. So thank you for following up. Appreciate it. Curious what people think. All the commenters are jerks. Yes, I agree. Anyway, thanks for listening.